Ladies and gentlemen, cats and snails, it's your biggest fan here, Dennis51, bringing you some gameplay on Villa Team Deathmatch. Yes, I don't usually play on Villa or Team Deathmatch. I just think you guys got sick of seeing kind of summit gameplay, kind of firing range gameplay, and kind of domination. I think I just said cats and snails, I don't know why. Anyway, for this main video, before I get onto my main topic, I just want to say that Tom's Tuesday seemed to be a success, and hopefully I'll carry on for future reference if any of you guys wanted to know. Sorry about that. And it has been taking up a bit of my time, and that's why I haven't really been uploading. I wasn't really sure about the series. I just wanted to put in a lot of time into it and just to see what happens. Well, not a lot of time, but I hope you guys understand. So anyway, I get a pretty decent average score in this game. I'm using the Famous, and this is a really old gameplay. I think I'm playing with James Randy as usual, and we go ham as usual too. So let me just jump onto my main topic, because I think that needs to be said, and it's basically my thoughts about E3. And overall, actually, if you guys can't be bothered to watch how long this is, I just want to say that E3 as a whole wasn't that good. I think compared to last year, it was terrible, and then last year was even terrible compared to the year before. But only because of kind of three main factors, and one was the trailers. Nearly every trailer that I watched was either full of CGI or not CGI, but like cinematics. And cinematics in a game, especially in a game trailer, doesn't really mean much. And what a game, especially hardcore gamers, if you're appealing to hardcore gamers, what they want to see is gameplay. They want to know how it feels. They don't want to see cinematics which can't be played, and it's more based on the storyline, which, because it's a trailer, you still don't know, because it's similar to like a movie trailer. You know, if you watch like a panning of a panning kind of camera angle from a distance, coming off like a hill and into like a snowy kind of mountainish area, you're not going to know what the movie's about. But that's how it kind of seems to some of the hardcore games. They don't know what it's about, and you know, unless you show gameplay or appeal, unless the game is heavily dependent on a storyline, I don't think that it could really be that successful to advertise to us gamers, or hardcore gamers. In fact, casual gamers, you know, I don't think they really notice the difference. I think they're more grateful that there was even a trailer or that they announced some of the stuff. But another thing, like for example, Microsoft, because they were the first ones doing their conference, their showcase, they, for example, said that the Xbox was getting Internet Explorer. And for those of you who don't know, you know, Internet Explorer isn't very a good internet browser. It's quite slow. It's not upbeat or like high tech as something like Chrome or Firefox. And you know, Internet Explorer, Microsoft, they've actually, you know, gone out and advertised Internet Explorer, you know, an internet browser on the TV, and it just makes me feel like, you know, people usually watch TV aren't gonna go, oh yeah, Internet Explorer, something that's already on my computer, I should just go on there and use it then, because it's advertised to me on TV. But I mean, it's a wrong marketing tool. So in case anyone from Microsoft is watching, please just stop the advert. And you know, when they said that Internet Explorer was coming to Xbox, I was like, okay. And then before that, one of the guys actually said that Xbox was that the internet on the Xbox didn't feel right. You know, you can't, you know, the internet doesn't belong in the living room, which I agreed with actually. I was like, yeah, it doesn't actually belong in the living room. Having the internet, web browser, in fact, on the console doesn't really feel right, especially with a keyboard. So, but then when he said they were getting Internet Explorer, it sort of contradicted himself. But you know, I'm not here to judge as such. But I thought it was pretty good. And then they showcased, so they showed some of the games for the Xbox and whatnot, and I thought that was pretty cool. But overall, I think Microsoft did pretty badly. And I mean, I'm compared to everyone else, but I want to get on like quite whiz through this. EA did their showcase next, and it was quite interesting, in fact, because you know, given their circumstances, because it's really weird when I'm thinking about EA, because their pitch was good, but it's kind of really hard to explain. But their pitch was good, but the actual pitch itself isn't good. And what I mean by this is basically they have to re-show the same game and basically say, oh well, in last year this game didn't have this, but now it does. You know, like they say, oh, there's more movements. You know, and there's a, you know, they've got like 15 minutes to, I think like an hour. No, it was an hour to basically say that they've improved each game from its previous versions by adding in just a few new animations and possibly improving the graphics, which, you know, I think for this year they didn't actually improve the graphics of some of the games. So they had to do what they had, and they were adding like social networks and stuff like this. So it was kind of a bit of a waste of time and not even needed for something like FIFA or Madden. But for those of you who play the game a lot, you may understand that, you know, it's probably a good game, and you have to always keep upbeat with these games. You know, they come out really quickly. So I think they did pretty poorly if they're appealing to like the hardcore gamers, because again, most of that was CGI and cinematics, and it just wasn't appealing. But, you know, and then Ubisoft actually did their conference, and it was kind of good, you know, because they introduced some of the Wii U titles. They did show a lot of cinematics, but then they actually did show some of the gameplay, like quite a few gameplay. It's playable content, in fact, I should say, and I thought that was really good. And then they did take an interest in some of the stuff that they were saying, and the host was pretty kind of entertaining for that. And then we should move on to Sony, because Sony was quite interesting. I think it, you know, out of all of them, it did kind of the best presentation, only purely because, you know, that they had little jokes in between. The host was quite friendly to everyone and quite relaxed. They weren't messing up their lines or anything like that. So I thought that was quite interesting to know. And you know, I think they did kind of try, and they kind of knew what they were saying, and there was no gimmicks. That actually, I do want to say, from Microsoft, they did spend quite a lot of time explaining what Kinect was, and I think everyone knows what Kinect is, so there was no real need to explain it again. So Sony didn't really kind of add any gimmicks, except maybe one or two things I didn't really notice. But then other than that, it was fine. Oh, you better watch this Kill Cannons, it's quite good. And then Nintendo and the 3DS, they were quite. I expected more because they did quite well last year and then the year before that, but obviously I think my expectations was just too high, and especially for their target audience, I shouldn't be expecting originally my high target audience. Sorry, I just lost a bit of train of thought. But please, if you liked the video, give it a like. If you really liked it, give it a comment. And yeah, it's been done 51. Bye. Hey guys, if you click the top annotation, it'll take you to my previous video, which was Tom's Tuesdays in episode 1. I had really fun making that. And if you click the bottom annotation, it'll take you to my previous video, which was the yellow light death, and I'm talking about loads of stuff there. Anyway guys, bye.